Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to this presentation. Uh, I'm Andrew Hlavats. I'm an Adapted Spiral Praxis practitioner based in Toronto, Canada. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to Autism Connect and Kajal for inviting me to give this presentation today. Um, I've been uh, working with special needs kids for about 6 or 7 years professionally since 2019. And was trained under the founder of Adapted Yoga, of Adapted Spiral Praxis, Yuji Oka, um, for about 4 years. And I worked with over 100 children and adults with special needs in different conditions, ranging from autism to Down syndrome to ADHD and even cerebral palsy. And I wanted to give a quick talk today about what adaptive spiral praxis is and how it can help individuals with autism learn how to control their bodies more effectively. I'm going to jump into my presentation. The title of this talk is Adaptive Spiral Praxis, a New Paradigm of Embodied Learning for Autism. I wanted to give a little bit of context into some of the challenges that people with autism face. These are not, these are generally some of the things. They're not always present in all individuals with autism, but some of these issues do occur with some frequency. The first and most significant probably is the issue surrounding motor control. It's come to be termed developmental coordination disorder more recently, and it stems from essentially an issue where people with autism, specifically nonverbal ones, have difficulty translating their mental and cognitive understanding of a skill, their intention to act in a certain way, in terms of physical action. So their body simply just doesn't respond in the way they want, to the degree that they want, or with the control or accuracy. Sometimes they can't control their body at all. Many, oftentimes in adaptive spiral praxis, we think of this issue uh, fundamentally in terms of a mind-body disconnection. So we attempt to address that disconnection through different methods, regulatory methods and movement methods, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Another significant issue is sensory processing. People with autism are very sensitive to external stimuli, to uh, sights, sounds, smells, depending on who they are. Some of these are more prominent than others, and they can become overwhelmed. Um, and this feeling of being overwhelmed results in a state of dysregulation. There's many reasons for dysregulation. It's not just sensory, but um, it can be emotional, it can be psychological, it can be many reasons for it. But they can have severe anxiety, they can have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, um, and the dysregulation can sometimes result in stimming behaviors. These can be certain repeated gestures, vocalizations, rocking motions. There's a lot of forms of stimming. There could be repetitive motor tasks that they perform. So stimming can be a regulatory mechanism where they do it to actually regain control of their state, of their bodies, but it can also be itself dysregulating. They can become stuck in a stimming loop, and their anxiety can just become overloading. They can have panic attacks. There's a lot of issues around that. So we try to help them manage their regulation, and, and I'll talk about that again in a moment. And one of the other issues from adaptive spiral praxis is what we call a somatic uh, motor plan, motor program, which means we concern ourselves a lot with internal awareness. And so this issue of awareness is central to what we do. And for individuals with autism, they lack proprioception and interoception. So what this means, proprioception is simply the awareness of a person's body, limbs, and extremities in relationship to the body in space. And interoception is the inner awareness, a sense of what's happening inside the body. And both of these can be impacted in individuals with autism. So we help to promote and stimulate these forms of awareness. They're very important, especially for movement. So we found in adapted spiral praxis that we really need to rely on a form of body-based learning. So we try to promote this connection between the mind and the body and to promote body awareness. One of the ways that we do this is through touch. So we have different touch techniques that we use, a deep pressure and other textures that we do. This is a photo of my colleague Pamela using deep pressure on a child with autism. This is very calming for many individuals. Every individual is different. The kind of touch that they need, it varies. Light or heavy, sometimes, joint compression is very common. Or the use of weight or heavy objects or weighted blanket. These are common tools that can help them reconnect to their body, come out of being entirely inside their heads and inside their minds, getting grounded in their body, and feeling, what their senses are experiencing, getting them back to the present moment. This is very calming for many of them. Another thing we often use is vestibular tools. So things like spinning or swimming, swinging. These can also help regulate. So we found that regulation is absolutely critical as a foundation for all learning. A child or any individual simply cannot learn effectively if they're dysregulated. So we start our learning process with regulation. We get them to a calm state where they're receptive. They're able to integrate knowledge and new experiences and new skills much more effectively. So that's the ground, the foundation of what we do. So we really do feel that these two things are intricately connected in the motor learning process. I should also quickly mention that adapted spiral praxis emphasizes a developmental learning model. So at early childhood motor learning evolves in a developmental way. There's certain motor milestones that a child will go through. And the process of which they learn those skills is not necessarily linear, but it is very experimental and exploratory. It's non-repetitive. They're rolling, they're moving their bodies, they're experimenting and trying different things. So we try to replicate that model, and we try to identify any gaps in that developmental learning, and we address those. We try to fill them in and to kind of smooth out that developmental process. So adapted spiral praxis is a somatic motor education program. It was originally developed by Yuji Oka, who's pictured here, about 30 years ago in the Ohio Positive Education Program, which was a special needs program in the school system. He was previously a dancer, trained as a dancer. He was invited to come into the school to teach dance to individuals, children with special needs. He found in the process of that, he needed to modify and adapt his dance education in a way that they could access and they could do. So he developed adapted spiral praxis, which is really a subset of a larger body of work of body-mind practices called spiral praxis, which he's developed for over 35 years. The result is this curriculum, adapted spiral praxis, which we emphasize certain motor skills like rolling, crawling, and jumping, as well as yoga poses. We do fitness and calisthenics as well, and I'll talk a bit more specifically about that. In adapted spiral praxis, there are certain foundational principles that we emphasize. These are kind of integral to the way that we work, the way that we think about children, the way we think about clients. Also, I should emphasize that whenever I refer to children, I really do mean everyone. The adapted spiral praxis is inclusive of individuals of all ages. I've worked with people from as early as 2 or 3 years old, all the way up to in their 60s and 70s. There's no real limit to who can enter into this process and learn and benefit from it. It's a universal motor program. So when I say child, I really do mean everyone. When we say all kids love to move, what that really refers to is this idea that innate to a child is a fundamental and natural desire to move. They love movement, they want to move. If they're unable to do so, it's because of some limiting factor, some impediment that we want to address and help them overcome. things like anxiety, dysregulation, fear. Maybe there's a muscular issue, they're tight in their bodies in some way. We try to address those issues, we help them overcome those difficulties and move forward. And so we don't think that there's ever a natural resistance or a dislike of movement. They love to move. Fundamentally, we trust in that, and that guides our work with them forwards. The idea of No Child Left Behind is that we make the program and curriculum accessible to everyone. We find a way to modify or adapt it so that everyone can gain access to them. We meet every child and every person where they're at in their motor learning, in their regulatory needs, and we modify the curriculum according to those needs. So we really guide and support them through their learning process. We also emphasize connection. Now, initially, of course, there's this connection between the practitioner and the child. We try to understand them, we see them, we recognize their intelligence, their presumption of competence. We support them. We want to find what they're motivated by, what they love, what they're interested in. And so that's really a very strong foundation interpersonally. But in addition to that, we want to promote connection that they have to their own body, so that they're really grounded and that they have agency and control over their body, as well as to their environment, to their sensory experiences, and other people in their lives, their family and other individuals. So it's generally emphasizing this idea of becoming more connected in every possible way. Adapted Spiral Praxis is also holistic. We think about the multifaceted dimensions of a child's life. There are many factors that can affect their ability to perform motor skills effectively. So one example is many children with autism suffer from constipation or digestive issues. So sometimes we can do stomach massage or body work on the stomach to help kind of alleviate the pressure. This is just something that we can help them with a little bit, improving their digestion. This isn't the central focus of what we do, but we can consider these factors because they can be influencing it. And again, it can be an impediment to their learning movement. And above all, we try to find their learning zone. So this is basically that the sweet spot between activities that are too challenging where they'll become discouraged, or too easy where they become disengaged or bored. And this is always evolving. It's always changing and moving around. And so we try to continue to adapt and follow their learning needs as they evolve and grow in their movement learning. So this is a dynamic and organic process that's always changing and shifting. The overall learning process begins, as I mentioned, with connection and regulation. So these are the foundations, the underpinning supports for everything. And we also go through these motor learning milestones developmentally. We look for gaps. We don't teach it in a linear way. So if a child exhibits an interest or a talent for a particular type of movement, or they gravitate to certain types of movement, we'll explore that. If they have certain interests that they're really, they love music, for example, we'll try to incorporate music into the session in some way. So it's not rote or linear by any means. We begin with individual motor and yoga skills. We explore these with variations. So these are some examples of variations. So on the top right is, this is an acro yoga airplane position. And this can be considered similar to a plank pose. So this could be a spatial variation of a yoga pose. Rather than doing it on the floor, we can do it in the air. Also down below, there's another boy who's doing a crab crawl on the floor, and we've given him a weight to carry, which adds kind of a physical resistance. And this, we found the use of weight and resistance to be incredibly important for developing that awareness, that body awareness, that interoception, as well as proprioception, because it gives them feedback of where their limbs are and their body is in space. They have to bring themselves up to a certain energy level to be able to use the weight, and that gives them awareness. It's very powerful. Once a child has developed a certain proficiency, independence, and sometimes even mastery of a motor skill, we then look into sequencing or linking those skills together. This is also true for yoga. If we have yoga poses, we'll link them into salutations. We call this sequencing, generally speaking. And this is really important for deepening their understanding of movement. We also look into coordinations. These are basically, these are movements that cross the midline very often. They're the movements of the limbs in relation to the body, not necessarily moving through space, but in relation to the central torso, and spine. And those are very important for helping them develop body awareness and control. Um, Once they've explored sequencing and coordinations and their knowledge of movement is deepening, we really start to open up into creativity, into more cognitive dimensions of movement. We add games and rule-based structures, and we start to explore dance and sometimes even choreography. We try to find avenues for them to find expression through their bodies, creativity, and of course, flow, which is simply movement without any impediment, where they can move any way they choose effortlessly. And that's the goal. We look for independence and flow. So here I'd like to just show a couple short films that can help illustrate the progress and development that children go through this process. The first is a short clip showing 3 children, and there's a before and after for each one. This was filmed many years ago by Yuji in the Ohio education program. This is really going to emphasize certain motor skills, but pay attention to just the fluidity and confidence that emerges as the children go through their skills. Okay, just a moment. So this child is attempting to do a front roll or somersault. And here he's really mastered the skill. He's doing completely independently without any support. This is hopping on one foot from block to block. You see there's some balance issues. And here, this is a really good example of flow. No hesitation, smooth, seamless movement. This is leaping or running over blocks. A little hesitation between, some pausing. Then he becomes completely fluid in his movement. And I'd like to share another video. This is of a boy I worked with very recently, and he did an intensive in Australia, in Melbourne. This boy had experienced a lot of pain in his life, and he was autistic, and he had kind of frozen up. His body was very tense, his back, his legs were very tight, and I worked with him for 2 weeks, and you can see some of the changes that he started to undergo. Okay, so you see, after undergoing 10 days of motor learning and working on regulation, his body really began to open up, and he started to relax and become much more at home doing movement, and just and starting to access his natural self, his more positive self. So, adapted spiral praxis has many real world applications. And we really do believe that everyone can make progress, regardless of age, circumstance, starting condition. We do find entry points for everyone, and we believe that progress is available to everyone in some form, relative to wherever they are in their when they begin their learning journey. And progress can come in many forms. They can become more regulated, or regulate more quickly, or recover from periods of dysregulation faster. Their movement can improve in many of these ways, which we've explained. They can deepen their connection to their environment, to other people in their lives, to their body. And one thing that has been communicated to me, actually directly by some of the kids I worked with, some of whom are able to communicate using a letterboard by pointing, is they say that movement is empowering to them. They actually feel a sense of agency, freedom, control. They start to regain a sense of ownership of their own body. They're not trapped just inside their minds. They can now interact with the world. And this really translates into many other areas. I always observe when a child goes through a motor learning process, every facet of their cognition seems to elevate. Their communication improves. Their eye contact improves. They become more dynamic, more engaged with the world. It's really a beautiful process to observe. I also want to emphasize here that adaptive spiral praxis isn't just for the kids we work with. It's for the whole family. It's for the parents. We work with parents directly in many cases. Again, this is part of the holistic perspective that we bring. We try to encourage parents to keep the learning going. We give them simple yoga activities that they can do in the home, and we don't expect this huge investment of time because everyone is stressed and busy and all sorts of things. But even a few minutes here and there can have a really profound effect. I want to give the example, excuse me, of the boy in the bottom right. Um, his mother took one of my online training programs, and over the course of a year, started doing yoga with him in her house. Just simple postures, um, maybe a little bit of light movement, a bit of rolling here and there. And he eventually, for the first time, started swimming, diving into a pool and swimming, as well as joining a soccer program. So really amazing things that he couldn't have done before he started to explore movement and really kind of discover his body and what it could do. Something that we really try to emphasize for parents to encourage them to understand more deeply is the healing and regulatory power of their own state. So, as a parent, your emotional state is connected to your child. Many autistic children are very sensitive, empathetic, and perceptive, and they will just naturally pick up on other people's states. So you have a lot of power there in influencing how you feel in changing the regulatory state of your child. As well, we really try to encourage in interaction and through the activities we present how to engage more deeply with your child's inner intelligence and inner personality and world. We try to foster those connections. And we also share some simple touch techniques, some simple bodywork exercises that parents can use in the home to help their children regulate, because that is such a fundamental, necessary need. There are also some broader implications I want to address as well. Adaptive spiral praxis isn't just about this developmental motor curriculum. It is a universal learning process that can be adapted to many different contexts, and it evolves. It evolves into other activities. You can begin to explore as a child goes through this learning process. Their world opens up. They can begin to access other skills and other interests that they have. They can explore climbing, biking, swimming, any activity really, as well as skills of daily living. And because motor skills are on a continuum from gross motor to fine motor, there can even begin to be areas where fine motor skills can start to open up more effectively. They start to translate their understanding, their body awareness into other areas. This also is extremely complementary to communication practices, adaptive communication practices like spelling to communicate. It can help facilitate and improve their ability to control their body and to to engage with those sorts of activities. So we found a very beautiful complementary relationship there. We also understand that parents need support as well. So we do offer various programs and ways in which we help parents. In the upper right is a workshop we gave for relaxation for parents and caregivers, yoga, relaxation, body, mind. In the bottom right is a workshop I gave on how to administer touch for regulation. This was in Australia. Also, parents and caregivers attended. We offer workshops, training programs. We're interested in community, in getting people connected and supporting each other. We love collaboration. We love working with people. I worked with an SUC practitioner in Australia to provide an intensive program over there. We're always looking for opportunities like this to connect and bring the work to more people. Our goal, above all, really, is for autistic people and their families to gain the sense of independence, freedom, and to find, for their children and for the children themselves, to find expression, freedom, and flow through their bodies, to reconnect with their bodies and to find the joy of movement. So feel free, if you have more questions, you can ask me here. You can contact us at info@adaptedspiralpraxis.com or visit our website. We also have a YouTube channel. I wanted to mention that Yuji, the founder of Adapted Spiral Praxis, also works with individuals with more severe disabilities, cerebral palsy, for example, and he's documented some of his amazing work on the YouTube channel. Beautiful documentaries are available there. You can also see some of our work with autistic individuals there too. So if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you, and thank you for watching my presentation. Okay, there's a question. How can parents use adapted spiral praxis strategies at home in daily routines? So one of the things that we do is we teach parents how to sort of break down activities to make them more accessible and simple. So if you're trying to learn a skill, we can kind of teach you how to simplify it and understand the learning needs of your child and how to set up structures and processes to help them with that learning process. So if by daily routines you mean skills of daily living, those can be supported in this way, but also just generally by doing yoga, by doing some movement, you're addressing a fundamental need. Kids need to move, and that once that need is addressed, they'll be more regulated. They'll be more able to perform other tasks that they need to throughout the day. How does it help children who are non-speaking or have high sensory sensitivities? Absolutely. Non-speaking individuals are most of the kids that I work with more recently, and it's been profoundly helpful for them because what I've found with non-speaking individuals is they have a completely clear understanding of anything that you ask them to do. They understand the skill, they want to do it, but they cannot translate that desire into an action. They're in a sort of way, they're kind of disconnected from that motor function. So we help them bridge the gap through supportive structures, through sometimes hands-on support initially to give them all of the information they need to fully perform and complete a motor task. Then we gradually phase away that support. We demonstrate, we model, we give verbal support, we use props and objects in the environment to help guide their awareness. So there's many tools that we use to really, really engage them in the activity. We're also very sensitive to sensory needs. So everything that we consider the environment, we consider the smell. We offer sensory experiences. We'll cover them in blankets if they need to be. We'll explore everything. There's a learning process as we work with the child to understand what works for them and develop that structure for their needs. And we really shape the experience on an individual basis for the best outcomes. Well, thank you everyone for attending. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing from some of you in the future. Okay.